All right, let's get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to July's Microsoft Productivity Power Hour, where we unlock the Microsoft Office 365 tools for modern success. As a friendly reminder, all meetings are recorded and posted on our community on the YouTube channel later. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please stay on mute and off the camera or disengage from the call and watch the recording. Microsoft Productivity Power Hour is sponsored and hosted by NTT Tech and Sixer Technologies. And what we cover is Microsoft Office 365, unlocking full potential of cloud-based productivity and collaboration tools. The interactive learning and perspectives are given for our sessions are designed to cater to end users, business owners, citizen developers, interactive learners monthly sessions, demos and Q&As, and questions of the month. Submit your questions and we'll pick one to answer in depth next month. Topic requests. We welcome topic requests from you. Anything that you want to learn that's in the Office 365 system, we would gladly consider that topic and meet your needs. If you got questions, use the chat window before you forget, or raise your hand, and we will get to you shortly. Before we get started, we have a cloud disclaimer. All cloud technology, including Microsoft, are constantly updating, so please excuse any inconsistency between our presentation slides and current portals. Sometimes they change. A button could be there this morning and then change and be gone this evening. That's the nature of constantly updating. Today's agenda, your data and insight with Excel. Last time we talked about how to create professional documents with Microsoft Word. We cover usage styles and formation consistency, working with templates, managing page layouts, creating tables, references, collaborating through comments and tracking changes, and using productivity features to produce polished documents efficiently. By the end of today's session, you'll be able to do things like organize data in tables, use similar formulas, use simple formulas, create charts, and highlight key insights. Excuse me. Why Excel matters. Budgets, sales, performances, metrics help you understand and grow your business. Excel turns raw data into insights, helping you work smarter, making better decisions. Many people use Excel, but don't use it very well. So this is a chance to learn a little bit more about Excel. So without further ado, we have Nikkia T doing the demo today. So let's get into some demo.
All right, thanks, Harry. Just waiting for my screen to, okay, there we go. I believe you all can see it now. Okay, all right. So time to get into some demos. We're going to start with this messy spreadsheet. Basically, it's going to be a basic spreadsheet with some data that's already in it. We're going to turn it into something clean and useful, adding tables, charts, and all of that. So we'll look at how to do all of that. So starting off, let's look at tables, which are kind of the foundation for everything that we're going to start building these, the spreadsheet out into a more robust, helpful spreadsheet. So tables help with cleaning the structure. It can make things easy for you to sort and filter, and it's required for good analysis. So it's one of those things that once you set it up, it helps you to be able to analyze the table a little bit better, although we'll go into ways you can analyze it even further. But let's first look at how we can create the table. So first we're going to start with some raw data, as I said. We're going to look at formatting it as a table. We'll look at the headers, and we actually need to confirm that we have headers, and we'll walk through that process. We'll look at filtering and sorting and some of the table styles. And then we'll also create a total column, and we'll also create a couple of fields for grand total and average, just to add a little bit more to the spreadsheet. So let's start off with the data. Here we go. Okay. So first thing, you may have a spreadsheet that has data in it that makes sense line by line, but sometimes trying to analyze all of this stuff at a glance, this is where we're trying to get to. One of the first things to do, as I said before, is the data being turned into a table. So I usually spread out my columns so that I can see everything well, and then I highlight all of the data. Now you can do this, some people do that, but when you do that, that's going to make everything, this whole thing, a table. And if you know anything about Excel, you know it can go on and 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 on to the right, and on and on and on and on and on and on going down bottom. So you don't want to try to include all of this in your table. You just want the data. So just highlight the data like so. Another thing I want to show you, when you highlight the data, you start on one cell, and then you make sure that you get this big plus symbol, and then you can spread it across like this. Now, if you get this, and then somehow you end up on this side where the dot is, and your plus turns into this black symbol of the plus sign, that's not the one you want, because if you do that, I'll just show you over a couple. What it's going to do is it's going to copy across. So you don't want it to copy across. You want to select all the data. So make sure you have the big white cross. Oopsie, do it again. Make sure you have the big right cross and go across all of your data. All right. So the first thing after you do all of that, second thing after you do all of that, you go to the home screen, on the home tab, and then there is format as a table in the style section. So you click on that. You can see that there's different colors and different types of table styles, and you can also define your own. I usually just use the table style that is available, that are available. Sometimes I'll set up some color palettes, but we'll not do that for sake of time today. I'll just go ahead and use this color right here. Okay. Once I choose it, it gives me the dotted moving lines around it, letting me know that something's about to happen to this section. I also get this pop-up. It says, where's your data in the table? And it has the columns that are here. So A1, the nomenclature is a little bit different now for those of us who've been in Excel for a while. It normally would be A1 through F13. So A1 would be here, F13 is here. But now there's these S's in the middle. It's the same difference. We also want to make sure that we have our, my table has headers checked. That way this part, these actual headers that we set up manually, will become table headers, which will help with filtering and sorting and such. So let's go ahead and click OK, making sure that that box is checked. And then we get the colors, as well as we get these drop downs here. Sometimes I like to, again, I like to have my stuff so I can see everything clearly. I just move stuff out like that. Okay, so now you see that the table is now actual table with color. It also has these drop downs where I could sort by this column, the dates, or maybe sort by maybe the region. So if I were to do that, you see I see north, south, east, west, all of that, blah, blah, blah. If I do a sort from A to Z, then east at the top, north, south, and then west. Everything gets reshuffled. I can remove that sort by clearing the filter from the region. Whoops, sorry, I was on the filter part. Not by that, by clearing the, oh, they actually must have moved that. Oh, well. You can always use the back button as well if you don't want to keep that sort. There used to be a clear the sort, but there's no clear sort now. But you can also filter. So when you filter, you could say, maybe I only want to see all of the things that came out of the East region. So I can go back to the drop down for that column, and then I choose just East region. Whoops, let me unselect all, and then choose just the East region. Do that, now I only see East. Now if I wanted it to be East and West, just go back, click East and West, and there you go. Now you can clear the filter by either hitting the select all or just hit the clear filter from region, and that makes everything appear back again. Okay. Now that we have that, we've seen how we can filter and sort, and there's different table styles. So if I were to hover, I'm sorry, not hover, select the whole table, and I get my just-in-time tab that only shows up in time when I actually need it, because I've I selected the whole table design. I get the table design tab that appears, and at the end I have styles that I can change to. So if I wanted to change it to a different color, there you go. I could do that as well. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and add another column. Going to add a total column, and we're going to also add some fields where we'll be able to see the grand total of everything as well as the average price for everything. All right. So in my table, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click on insert. And then I'm going to choose to create a column, and it will go to the right, or to my right. Okay, so there's the column. Now I can give it a name, and I'm going to name it total. Right. Now here is where I can start adding my formulas that will actually give me some autofill, even though we'll talk about formulas in a little bit too, but we'll talk about it really quick here. So you can see the autofill. You select one of the cells for where I want to put the total, and the total that I want would be the unit price times the number of units. So I'm going to hit an equal sign. That means I'm about to do a formula here that lets the system, this Excel spreadsheet, know that that's what I'm about to do. And then I put in the places that I want it to go. Now there's two things you can do here. You can click on the place. Once you get this equal sign and you have your cursor in there, you can actually click on one of the places like this, and it'll put it in, again, different from those of us who know older Excel. Now we get this thing that kind of gives it the name of the column, and then I can put the time symbol, and then if I want, I can type the rest in. So the other one would be F2, which is this cell right here, F and 2. Okay. Now you could use the S, SF, S2, but I'm using the old nomenclature, which is just naming the column, naming that cell just the way it's named. And as you can see, it accepted it because you could see that this one's highlighted from the first one, but this one is the one I'm actually on, which is extra highlighted to show that it actually is grabbing that column. Now, once I go into this formula box again and I hit enter, then it goes ahead and gives me the total, 12 times 35. But not only that, you might have noticed it did an autofill for me. So it knew that, okay, all of these lines of data are similar. They're basically the same, just got different data in each cell. So I should be able to do the same type of formula going down this whole column. It made that assumption and it did it. Now you can control some of these auto correction or autofill type options by clicking on this box right here. So you can undo the calculated column, you can stop creating the calculated column and all that stuff and control some of the options. But this is what we actually wanted. So I'm going to leave that here. And now I'm going to add my two cells that will give me the grand total as well as the average sale price. Actually, I'm going to just name it average so it doesn't go out the cell. And then I have to make that longer. Okay. I'm going to make these two bold just because I like those to stand out. And then for the grand total, I'm going to actually add another function here for this cell. This one will be a little bit different. So there are some functions that we'll talk about in a little bit, but I'll go ahead and add one of them because I know it off the top of my head. This one will sum up this column. So I want G2 through G13. So I'm going to write it out, G2, and then because this is a formula, it's going to expect when it's arranged, it's giving me kind of an idea of what the formula should look like through this little hint right here. But because I'm about to do a whole range, I'm going to use the first cell, which is this one right here, then put this colon, which means go from this cell through this cell. And then I'm going to put G13, which is this cell down here. And now notice how all of it's highlighted. And that way, I got everything. I could have also just slid down the row, and that would have given me it too. But I like to write mine out a little bit. So there's that. I'm going to hit enter, and there's my grand total. For my average, I'm going to use the average function. Oh, wait a minute. Did they change it? Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't even put the equals. You got to remember to put the equals there. Okay, there we go. So the average. So now I want the average same over the same totals. I'm going to go ahead and put in let me go ahead and do it this way this time. All right, so notice how I started sliding down and you see some of them, but I stopped. So I don't have everything in here, but I can go ahead and just click and start again. And there we go, that whole thing. And then enter. And that's the average sale amount. So that's how you can get some of these things for some of the formulas, which we're about to go into a little bit deeper. Now, formulas are good for making quick calculations. They can help you with just grabbing a whole bunch of things, adding them up, averaging them. There's a bunch of different formulas that you can do. It can help reduce errors and save some time, because if you're trying to do all of that manually and you got a huge spreadsheet of data, it's going to take a while. So actually, we kind of already did this part, but I'm going to show you for this part, instead of showing you the total and the average again and making the column and all of that, I'm going to show you some of the functions that you have available and how you know what they do. Get back to my Excel sheet. Okay. All right. So you don't have to remember all of these functions. There's a place for you to get them, and I kind of hinted to it earlier, and that's right next to the formula box. So if you click the little drop down next to the FX, FX means formula here, you see that you have a box for searching. So if you know what function you want, you can just search for it. You can also go through the different categories of functions, because there's lots of different categories: financial, time date, math, trig, logical, engineering, cube, all types of stuff here that you can use. I'm going to stay on the most recently used because that's usually what most people need. There's sum here, there's average, there's if, there's hyperlink, you know, the list goes on. So I'll just kind of scroll down so you can see standard deviation, sum if, what have you. If you're wondering what one of these things does, what you do is you just click on it and your description tells you right here. Like the sum if, you get the range, the criteria, and the sum range, and it also tells you what it expects in the formula. But it adds the cells specified given by the condition and the criteria. So if you wanted to say sum all of these cells if in this range, if a certain thing, like if they're all over 50 or something like that, then you can go ahead and say that using these formulas. Like I said, any of the formulas. Let's go to one that people use a lot too, financial. So compound interest, the days for settling stuff. There's lots and lots of different formulas in here. So if you're beyond the basic when it comes to some of these formulas, you're in engineering, you're in finance, then you might want to check out the formulas that are available for you there. But as a business owner, you most likely want to see the most recently used ones because that's the ones that most people use. You want to do things like totaling up, getting grand totals, getting different averages and things like that. So that way you can stop calculating manually and let Excel do it for you. Remember, if you have any questions during this demo, you can raise your hand and or you can put it in the chat. So that was the formulas. We kind of went through how it worked before, but you can see the different types of formulas that you can use. Now let's go into the part that a lot of people usually like best, and that's charts, visuals. Visuals are a lot faster for people to be able to understand and crunch in their heads as opposed to a big long sheet of a whole bunch of datas and numbers and figures and facts and stuff. It also makes your presentations and your reports look awesome. So how do you get those charts? Same thing, we're going to end up selecting the data, but we're going to go to a different tab this time. We're going to go to inserts, and then we're going to use in the chart section, we're going to choose a couple of different charts so you can see what they look like, and then we'll also step through some of the customizations that you can do. Excuse me. Alrighty, let me get back to here. Okay, so the data. Again, oops, actually, I don't want the totals this time. I just want the unit price and all of that. Totals was just for me being able to see how much the total price is. Oh, which I forgot to say that I can also change it into dollars because all this is just not dollars. In the home section, home tab, in the number section, there are different formats that you can use too. So I'm going to make this all dollars, these all dollars, and these dollars. There we go. Okay, that looks better. Now I'm able to really look at it from a business owner perspective. This is how much money each thing costs or the unit price, and this is how much I made off of the sales. Okay, so now the data, the charts. So let me go back and highlight the data that I want to actually be in the chart. And then we're going to go to the Insert tab. And then in the chart section, you see there's a bunch of stuff. I have recommended charts. There's a pie chart. There's line charts. There's bar charts. There's these hierarchy charts, other bar chart, the scatter plot thing. I forget what this thing is called. It's like, oh yeah, different combo charts. Other different types of charts. Now, you might not use a lot of these charts depending on what your business is in. But a lot of us as business owners, and we want to figure out, all these around these data points of how many sales and how much money that I make and everything, I might want to use like a bar chart. So let's start with that. And any of these things, you can hover over them and you can actually start seeing, because it pulls it up, you can kind of see what the chart's going to look like. As I hover over each thing, you can see how it's changing. So I can say, I think I want the data to look like maybe the stack chart right here. Okay. So once I choose it, I have my chart. Didn't have to do a whole lot of stuff. I just did some clicking and I got my chart, and I made sure I chose the right data set and I got my chart. Now I can move this chart over so it doesn't have to stay where it is. It's a hover thing, a hoverable chart thing. So you just move it all around the screen wherever you want it to go. There's a few options on here. The plus symbol widget where I have the chart elements, the formatting or chart styles, and the filter. Okay. So chart elements, I can say, what other things do I want to show on this chart? Right now, I'm showing the axis, the title. So there's the title, the different axis, the grid lines, and there's the legend. If I wanted to add more to it, there's the data labels, even though that looks crazy on top of this. It's too much information. But there's also the axis title, which you can change. Same thing with the chart title. You can also change that too. You just click on it and change it. So you can add any of that stuff. You can also mess with the styles. Oh, come on, bro. Oh, no, that wasn't it. There we go. There we go. Okay. You can also mess with the styles. So here, just like we saw on the other one, we can hover over styles and actually see it change and see what that looks like and see which one fits us best. And also mess with the color palette. So maybe I don't like those colors. Maybe I want it to be these colors. Maybe I want it to be more blue to just match blue and, there we go. Blue to match our table. So I can change the colors as well. And then the filter part, this helps you with like the, so right now we have the units and the unit price showing. But if I wanted to just take off the unit price and only show the units, oops. Okay, all right. And only so the units more highlighted. If I wanted to take some of these things off, the categories, which is not really showing very well here, but I could take those off because they're not really, there we go. Put those back. Okay. The names, so the series names and the category names. So column A, that's this column, if I want it to be all the dates. Column B to, and it's not really doing it. I guess I have to, it was doing it earlier, but maybe they just did an update. Okay, so let me apply. There we go. Now we're seeing how it changed. So a little earlier I was doing it and I was able to hover over stuff and click on stuff and it changed. This time I have to hit apply. So that might change back and forth. Sometimes you might have to hit the apply and sometimes you can hover over things and have it change. But I'm going to put it back on all columns. Let me apply that so that we see all of this data back down here under there again. Okay. Now let's look at a different chart. Let's say we want to do a pie chart this time. Go ahead and grab the data. Go to insert. Then we go to our pie chart. And we got a couple of different options like this one. We got the 3D one. We got this kind of pie chart. This one. Most people would use like this 3D one. Sometimes use the donut. even though I don't normally see that as much. It's usually the 2D or the 3D one. So I'm going to put the 2D one here. And notice it put it right in the same spot. So all I got to do is move it where I want it to go. Then let's go down here and look at it. Oopsie. All right, same options. What things do I want to show as far as the chart labels? See the data labels gets on here. That could be helpful, but it can also be very cluttery if you got small chart like this, or if it's things are just too close. All right. You can also choose the style. Like I would probably go for that one so that the chart is bigger so I can see things better. Although you can spread out the chart by using the arrows on the side as well, but only spread but so far. And then you have the values and the names just like the other one, just like the other chart. So same options, but as you can see, I'm starting to get some data, my data looking different, giving me some visualizations so that it helps me see at a glance certain elements, certain bits of data, but in a more comprehensive type fashion. I'm just going to check the chat real quick and make sure. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. There's something down here. Can you show how you would organize a dashboard in Excel? Can you elaborate on that question, please? Not exactly sure I understand what you mean. Now, either you can come off mute if you like to come off mute, or...
Hi, can you hear
Oh,
me?
hi. Yes.
Okay, well, basically, like normally you could build dashboards in like Tableau or Power BI, but if you wanted to build it in Excel, like is there like a specific format, or are you just placing the charts together, like two on top, two on the bottom?
Yeah, so there's those charts, but then we're going to also talk about pivot charts, which are probably more what you're thinking about.
Okay, cool.
That'll be after, I think, the last one. I think it's after this one, this next one. All right. So we'll get into that. So now conditional formatting. And that can help you with highlighting some of your insights fast. So sometimes there's different trends and things that you want to instantly just be able to say, ah, that's red, that's a problem. Or, oh, that's green, we're doing great right now. And that just helps you to be able to just look, and as opposed to trying to crunch it all in your head. So how do you turn on this conditional formatting? What types of things do you do? So first we're going to select the data column that we want. We're going to go to the Home tab and then select Conditional Formatting. We'll look at the color scales and the highlight rules, and then you can just see how the visual impacts end up showing. So let me go back to the data. Okay. All right. So maybe we want to do it on the totals here. Maybe on a number of units, or maybe on how much money we made. But either way, you select the data column that you want. Now I'm only selecting the data. I'm not selecting the header, because then that might change it a color, and I'm not really trying to get that change the color. I want the data to change colors. So I'm only going to select the data in that column. And then in the Home tab, I'm going to go to Conditional Formatting. Now, just like with the charts, unless Microsoft made another change from earlier, the bar chart anyway, that one, or at least it should. There we go. Okay, so some of that's still working. So when you hover over some things, it will show you a preview. I kind of like the way this looks, but you might want some other type of representation. Maybe you like it in red or you want it in blue. The blue actually would match more. Maybe that blue matches better. But it shows like how much money in relative to the other cells. There's the color scales. So maybe instead of that, I want to have these things, different colors based on, how much is in each one or whatnot. So I can choose my color scales. I can also add rules. Some of the rules you might want to just choose from up here instead of creating your own rule, like highlighting cells that are greater than a certain amount. So make it red with red fill and dark red text if the amount is under, let's say, 300. 300. Oh, and that did not, oh no, greater than. Sorry, I chose the wrong one. I meant less than and I chose greater than. So let me actually, oops, undo that because now oh, Excel, what are you doing? Okay, stop that. All right, let me go back. All right, conditional formatting. Do what I actually meant to do, which was choose less than, not greater than. Okay, less than 300. Okay, there we go. Now that I said less than 300, you see the ones that are less than 300 are highlighted in red. And that could be an indicator for me to say, ooh, these things, I mean, we're selling them, but we're not really making a whole lot of money off of them. So maybe we want to discontinue. Maybe we want to get a different product because maybe the product isn't that great or something. But it gives us some kind of indicator of what's going on with the conditional formatting. So like I said, you could use the different rules. You can use the color bars, which I actually prefer those over the rules. Let's see, did not click. Oh, does not let you stack them anymore. Okay, so it looks like you got to do one or the other. So if you wanted to have another one with the color bars in it, then you have to set up a different column for that because it doesn't let you stack them. Okay. But the visuals can be very helpful for being able to disseminate the data at a glance. All right, so now getting to the part where the question came from. The charts can be useful just like the Power BI tables. So you might want to do some charts, but the pivot table is something very close to what you would be used to in Power BI. Again, instead of having to look through all those rows of data, you can just create a pivot table real quick. It can be perfect for different things like budgets and inventory and all this stuff, executive reporting, just like your tables, but you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to the pivot table. So how do you do it? So you got to select the data, of course, or select the table where the data is. And then in the Insert tab, you're going to click on Pivot Table. And then we're going to place it into a new worksheet just because sometimes the pivot table can be, it can end up getting pretty big. So usually to make it pretty clean, we'll put it in a different sheet. We're going to look at doing things like dragging the sales reps into one row, into the rows, and the total, and to the values. We're going to also look at the largest and the smallest salesperson, and then we're going to change the sales rep to region. So we're going to replace that row of sales rep over into region, and we'll see how the data all changes from that. All right. So let me go ahead and get my Excel. Whoopsie. Excel back up. Okay, here we go. And then let's grab the table. Okay, we're going to grab the table. We're going to hit insert. And we're going to go to this first section where it says tables and there's pivot table. Now I want it from a table range, but notice that I could bring in data from an external source, which is something that you might be used to in Power BI. Power BI can bring in data from Excel and SharePoint and like Oracle and, you know, SQL databases, all types of data. You can also bring stuff in from Power BI here as well. So if you need it to be in a spreadsheet, then you could bring in that Power BI table here. But we're going to start using this pivot table from the table of data that we already have. So we're going to choose the pivot table and then choose from table range. All right. Now we kind of got a pop-up like we got the last time when we did the table itself. That's going to say, you know, choose the table range, the table or range. Table 2 is what it's saying that this table is named. So I'll just leave that there. I'm also going to choose for it to be in a new worksheet, again, as opposed to the existing worksheet, because like I said, things can get pretty crumpled up. And I'm going to leave this out of it because we're not doing multiple tables. We're doing one, so we don't need to add it to a data model. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It's going to create a whole nother sheet, and here you go. So you might be like, okay, so what am I supposed to do now? Shouldn't the pivot table be here? Well, yes, but you have to build it. So the way you build it is by choosing which fields you want to move over to there. Okay. This isn't showing up as broad as it was earlier, so I can only see a little bit in here. But I said that I wanted to put the sales rep into the, let me see, sales rep into the row. So I have rows and I have values here. I also have filters and I have columns. But I'm going to put my sales rep, I could just grab them and then drag them down here to the row section. And notice how that thing that was sitting there that said pivot table, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm seeing my rows here. Now I want to put in my values, I want to put total. Okay, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drag that here. All right. So it didn't make anything special, but I can make a table that's based on how I want to make it through this pivot table. I can also choose like what filters I want to have. So let's say units. Ooh. Units. And let's see, products. There we go. There we go, products. Okay. Now these filters can help, even though I have filters up here too on my table. I could say, because I don't have the column that says units or the column that says products, I have the sales reps names here and how much they were able to sell this month. I could say I only want to see it for units that are 20 units sold. That was Elma. She sold 20 units of whatever product this is. I can also add more columns. So say, for example, I want to add that products column here. And that way I can see, oh, the product that she did was the mice. But notice how it left the filter, because now it's over here in the table and I can choose the filter here. So the filter left because of that. Okay. So the pivot table, now I could do other things to it, like changing the data source and refreshing the data. But one of the things that can happen for everything, say I add another row of data here in my table. So let me go ahead and add another row. I'm going to insert. Okay, where's my below? Insert row below. Okay. All right. So let me do one for 6. It was John. He's in North America, even though that doesn't really match the nomenclature here. Actually, I can just leave it as North. No, I'm going to leave North America so you can see the difference. He sold, let's see, laptop. He sold 5 of them at $8.50 a piece. I notice how things, now if you weren't paying attention, as soon as I finished that line, this number jumped in here, which is the total. The grand total went up. The average price also went up because this was a bit of money. My charts changed. And then let's see, let me take this filter off. Okay, so now also what changed was, oh, and the thing is, oh, okay, so this did not refresh. Let me refresh it. There's John. Okay, there's John. All right. So I had to refresh the table, the pivot table, but now John's in there. So sometimes you have to refresh, but usually it will just go ahead and take, because it's operating on the data set that you chose already, it goes ahead, and once you make the change into the table where the data set is, then it automatically refreshes your charts and things. But if your pivot table doesn't chart, refresh. That's what the refresh button is for up here under Pivot Table Analyze tab. Some of these tabs, as you may or may not have noticed, they appear and they disappear based on if you need them or not. So if I'm in the table, I get Pivot Table, Analyze, and Design tabs, but when I'm outside of the table, I only get my regular tabs. That's also sometimes confusing to folks. But with all of these capabilities, you don't have to be the analyst to analyze the data. You let Excel do all the heavy lifting, bring it, help it to help you with giving you charts, pivoting tables the way that you want the table to actually show up, showing the data that you want to show, the different colors that you might need, that type of thing also is available to you, which can make all of the data easier for you to handle. Before I go to the call to action and we close out, I'm just going to check to see if we have any more questions before we close out. Great. Okay, so call to action. Try this yourself. Turn a data set into a table if you've never done it. Do some filtering and sorting. See how that helps you to be able to get to the right data that you want at that time. Maybe use a couple of formulas or at least one formula. Sum is very popular. Also, the formula that I did with just multiplying 2 columns together or 2 cells on one row together to get the total. Create some charts, maybe do some pivot tables, apply some conditional formatting, and see how that helps you be able to analyze your data a whole lot quicker. Being able to answer things like, how many sales that from the data that we did this anyway, how many sales did we make this month? Who's our top salesperson? What things are selling the quickest? What things are selling really slow? Things like that. Sorry, there was a little bit of echo. Things like that. All right. So in conclusion, learned about, and these are some of the key takeaways, how you can use tables to organize your data, how formulas can help you crunch numbers without you having to use all that brain power to crunch all these numbers yourself. Charts and the pivot tables can also help you tell a story and put together executive reporting. Even if you're the business leader, you're the one that needs to see this data, you can do all the crunching and analyzing and all of that, letting Excel do all the hard work for you. And that just can make your life so much easier. Using the conditional formatting also to highlight different insights so that you're automatically aware at a glance for whatever it is that you're trying to be aware about. Okay, now I already know I asked this, but any final questions before we wrap up?
Okay, we have two questions.
Okay, yes.
I had a question. So, is this something that is widely used for like data analysts or like business analysts? Do they use more Excel than Python, like or like on a daily basis?
So if you're a data analyst, I got some hits. Could you mute again, please? Okay, thank you. So when you're a data analyst, you're used to crunching data. You're used to having, lines and lines and lines and lines of stuff. Now, what a data analyst normally would do, yeah, they might use a spreadsheet, but usually they have more sophisticated tools. They're using your Power BI or Tableau. They're using Python with helping to crunch the data. This is more the essentials for like business leaders who are maybe not as versed in certain tools. This is a relatively easy tool for people that this isn't their specialty. This isn't their day-to-day. But they need they have all this data. They need to figure out some things like, how are my sales doing? How is, different points of data that you can be getting, like how much inventory do I have? With people entering data into the spreadsheet, a lot of times this is for like smaller companies with a business leader that isn't that tech savvy. For larger companies with data analysts, they usually are using, like I said, those more sophisticated tools. But you could still use Excel in this way as a data analyst if you don't have those tools available to you. Excel, most people have it. It's part of most of people's Windows. It's relatively cheap to get, even if you buy the family plan, which is like I think it's like $20 a month for 5 people to have licenses. I think it's even less than that if you just bought a single personal plan with just Excel. And sometimes small business owners, they only have Office. They don't have SharePoint. They don't have Power BI, nor do they have expertise. So it's really for those folks that need to get insights out of their data, may not have the tools and or the experience or skill level needed to do data analyst type crunching, but getting this amount of data out of their data is awesome for them. Hopefully that answers the question. I know it was a really long answer.
Yes, you helped me out with that. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Harry, I see you have a question.
Okay, yes. Earlier, I believe you said that this system can interact with your SharePoint and things of that nature. So if I have a um, sales receipt or sales report, I sell a laptop, and that information goes into my SharePoint, will it automatically update Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, so,
For me?
oops, yeah, I just realized I was on mute coming through your mic. Okay, yes. So for the external data, excuse me, you'll want to use your pivot table to pull the data from your external source in. Now, like I said before, sometimes the pivot table, if you make a change, as you saw earlier, it didn't change until I hit the refresh. So it may automatically refresh, but you might have to hit the refresh to make sure that it's automatically there. With your Power BI dashboards, being that they're more robust, has more features than Excel, you don't have to hit the manual share, refresh. You would just set the setting for it to automatically refresh itself. So you might have to hit the refresh button, but it can pull in data from SharePoint using a pivot table, and then you just might have to hit the refresh when new data is in there in order to make sure that it's all in the pivot table.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions before we close out? Okay. So since we have 1 minute left, Harry, do you want to close out or you want me to go ahead?
I'll go ahead and close it out. All right. All right, thank you for that, Nikkia. I believe this will help a lot of small businesses that want to organize their businesses, want to be able to know what the data is inside their business, how many sales they're making, what is growing, what is we selling the most of, what we selling the least of, so that if we have some things that may be less, maybe we need to do a little bit more marketing to it. You know, it's not just to do a lot more data-driven decisions, be able to look at the chart and understand exactly where things are happening. So we appreciate it. So join our next Microsoft Productivity Power Hour. It is on August 4th. And we'll be talking about Microsoft Teams, streamlining communication, empowering collaboration. Teams and show how you practically work smarter every day. You learn how to organize conversations with teams and channels, run better meetings, share and collaborate files without endless email attachments, work together in real time, and connect teams with Microsoft 365 apps like Planner, OneNote, and Forms. Don't forget to add the event to your calendar from LinkedIn so you don't miss it, or you can scan the QR code. Thank you. Feel free to reach out. The Microsoft Productivity Power Hour, you use the LinkedIn to reach out to us as well and to go to our page, the comments and things of that nature. You can also review these videos on YouTube. Also visit at ATC Tech Consultant, LLC, or visit us Sister Tech, Ltd. And with that said, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing y'all next week. Or next month, sorry. Have a good day.
Have a good one, everybody.